But on your left-hand side, turn again lane, you'll just see here now on your left, that's as far as the boats could come before they had to turn round and make their way back down to the River Thames. Off to the left behind the buildings, this is where you'll find the Old Bailey or the Central Criminal Court. And once upon a time, the prison that was here was the Fleet Prison. It was one of the worst prisons going. It was mainly for debtors. If you owed money, then you'd end up in the Fleet Prison. But it became very famous for marriages. So if you managed to abscond with a very wealthy young lady and you were a bit of a cad, you can marry her in a fleet marriage and be entitled to her money. So that's a series of marriages used to be performed here as well. So what we're going to do, go straight across. We saw St Paul's, you'll glimpse it again on your left hand side. So we're going to go straight across and we're going to make our way further eastwards through the city. As we come down, what we're going to do is go left at the lights. Building work on Blackfriars Bridge is all to do with the new rail link that's going in. So there's sort of new rail link going in at this part of London. But on your left hand side is a lovely old-fashioned arts and crafts pub. It's called the Black Friar. If you go inside, all the paintings they're like copper engravings, are all to do with friars making beer, because this was once the area of the Dominicans. Their monastery was here until the 16th century. The building on the right was once upon a time, there used to be a royal palace, the Bridewell here, and this is where King Henry VIII divorce from his first wife Catherine of Aragon was heard by Cardinal Campeggio from Rome. However, it was decided by the cardinal that Henry couldn't divorce his wife, and so we have the split with the Catholic Church. Henry divorces the Church of Rome, basically creates a new church of which he's the head and he can do what he likes. It means he will marry 5 further times, all in the aid of getting a son. He does get a son, but funnily enough, history shows that his greatest heir was his daughter Elizabeth, the daughter by Anne Boleyn, his second wife. Off to the left, this area is St Andrew by the Wardrobe, because this was where the Royal Wardrobe was. Scientology have just built the building just on the left-hand side, and on the left-hand side next to it, you've got the Royal College of Arms in a moment. So what we're going to do here, just slow down off to the left, you've got the gates for the Royal College of Arms. Again, you may have seen them in the Sherlock Holmes movie. This is where the villain's father lived. So this is the Royal College of Arms. If you're entitled to a coat of arms, this is where you will find, come here to get one. Just off to the left as we go through the lights, you've got this great view looking back up towards St Paul's Cathedral, and then if you look right, you can look across to the Wobbly Bridge and across to the Tate Modern Gallery of Art. So if you look left, you've got a great view of the dome of St Paul's Cathedral, all the way up to the Golden Lantern. And if you look in the triangular pediment, you can see a phoenix rising from the ashes, because of course St Paul's rose from the ashes of the old St Paul's, which burnt down in the Great Fire of 1666. London, although it's 2,000 years old, founded by the Romans, very quickly after its foundation in 43 AD, it was burnt to the ground by Boudicca in 60 AD, a female queen of the Iceni tribe. She didn't like the Romans very much. And then in 1666 the city burnt down again, only to be rebuilt, but this time stipulated no wooden buildings, no thatching on roofs, no wooden shingles. Everything had to be made of stone. The streets had to be made wider as well. So as we go through the lights, if you want to know what the city really looked like, look left, you'll see a street called Bow Lane. If you look down there, you will see how narrow the streets of London were once upon a time. So that's how narrow the streets of London were. London's a Roman city. Well, it's really hard to find anything Roman, but you will find one part above ground, because most of it is 18 to 20 feet below us. Just here on your right, there's a pile of rocks with you can just see behind the hoarding here, this is the Temple of Mithras. It's a 4th century temple to a Persian deity of light. Mithras was said to be born in a cave. He slaughtered the primordial bull, and from that, the blood of the bull, came all the great medicines and herbs that helped man. So basically all you would have here were men worshipping, no women, which is why it dies out. It was not very popular because women weren't allowed into the temples. The area to the left is Cheapside. behind the building, which is number 1 Poultry, but we're coming to what is basically I think the best way to describe it is the financial centre of the City of London. London is a major financial city along with New York and Tokyo, and basically they make as much money here as the country of Austria. They make trillions of pounds. It's home to the Bank of England, the Stock Exchange, the Guardian, Royal Exchange, Lloyd's of London, to name just a few. So as we go through the lights, we're going to go right, but if you look left, you have the Bank of England, founded at the end of the 17th century by a Scotsman, William Patterson. The building on the left as you go through now with the columns is the Guardian Royal Exchange. It used to be a market, a trading area. Today it's still a market, but with very expensive shops and restaurants. And then if you look left and right, you'll get an idea of how narrow the streets were. These are all the original street sizes and street plan from the 9th century, believe it or not. The city of Alfred the Great. So most of these streets only get one car down them. They're quite narrow. But this is where the Great Fire started in 1666 on the 2nd of September. It started a baker's shop. A baker called Thomas Farrell, who was the King's baker, and he didn't dampen down his fire properly. When he went to bed that night, the fire took hold very quickly because the buildings are wooden. There had been no rain for 6 months, which is fairly unusual for us. And the wind at that night was an east wind. Now if we get an east wind, it's always said to be an ill wind because our winds tend to come from the north or the west. So it was an east wind, it blew very quickly, and within 3 days 4/5 of the city was destroyed by fire. Now we built ourselves a memorial to that fire, and the memorial is known as the monument. So if any of you are not claustrophobic and don't mind climbing 311 stairs, you can climb up to the top of the 202-foot tall monument. So as we go just past Stone Rock here on your left, look left and you look down to the 202-foot tall column that is the monument. If you lay that back on itself, it will hit the exact point where the Great Fire started in 1666. We're coming on to London Bridge. This is the fairly boring 1970s version. You have the much earlier 19th century version at Lake Havasu in Arizona.
Lion King.
What's that? So, on to London Bridge. And what most people want to look at is the bridge that is on the left-hand side. We'll go down to the embankment so you can get some photographs that way. But here you get a view of Tower Bridge. It's a 19th century bascule bridge where the road traffic comes across. Those bascules weigh 1,000 tons each and they open within 90 seconds. The ship you can see is the HMS Belfast. It served during the Arctic convoys, was responsible for sinking the German ship the Scharnhorst in World War II. And Russia has just given £1 million to restore the masts because it is the last of the ships that served in the Arctic convoys to survive. And so that's the Belfast. The Shard is going up on the left hand side, that 1,017-foot tall glass building that will have restaurants, a hotel, offices and shops contained within it. It will be the tallest building in London at 1,017 feet. And off to the right, as we go to the other side of the bridge, the 4 pinnacles on top of the church you can see there, that is Southwark Cathedral. And Southwark Cathedral is probably the oldest church, or Gothic cathedral in London I should say, built at the beginning of 1220. Again you would have seen it in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, because next to Southwark Cathedral is Borough Market, which is a food market, Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays. But the market is used for a lot of filming, including things like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, Bridget Jones, and also Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So that's where you would have found the leaky cauldron next to the Wheatsheaf pub. Sadly, they're putting Crossrail in, and so what have they done? They've knocked down the leaky cauldron. It's not there anymore. There's a big hole in the middle. But Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays, as I said, it's a really good place to come down if you like food. So you can get things like fresh cooked chorizo with peppers, ciabatta and rocket. They have huge Thai curries, paella, venison burgers, whatever food you like, and you can purchase produce as well. So that's off to the right hand side. Another part of London that many people, especially teenagers and early 20-somethings, are interested in is on the right-hand side. The main station here is London Bridge, which is a mainline station, but it's also on the Underground, Northern Line, Jubilee Line. And just next to it you will find the London Dungeon on your right hand side. The death, disease and mayhem version of Madame Tussauds, I think, is the best way to describe it. It's a waxworks. But if you want to see what the plague of 1665 was like, the Black Death, the Black Death as it was originally in 1348-49, but the series of plagues continued all the way through to the 17th century. And then we've got the Great Fire of 1666, and you can also see the series of Jack the Ripper murders from 1888, series of murders that took place in the East End of London. So here's the London Dungeon. It's really popular, especially at Halloween, because if you come here it's very scary. You'll find the people who work here actually dress up as part of the exhibits. It's all in the dark, so if they sort of jump out at you in the dark, it's quite scary. But what we're going to do, we're going to turn left and make our way down to the back of Southwark Crown Court. If you can imagine, this huge area was once London's larder. This was where all the food was brought into London. But of course, with the ships getting larger and problem with the dockers striking, they stopped bringing goods into London. So what that happens is they turn into shops, and that's what you have here: shops, restaurants. You also have a hotel, the Hilton Hotel. There's even a children's theatre here, the Unicorn Theatre. So that's all on the left-hand side, but what we're going to do is going to turn left in a moment. They have been redeveloping this whole area, so the original 19th century Hayes Galleria, the wharf area, is here. And as you turn left, what you'll see immediately on your right is the more modern London Bridge Phase 2, or More London as it's known. But what we're going to do is stop down, so we can take you down onto the riverbank so you can get some photographs, not just of Tower Bridge, but also of the Tower of London. And the Tower of London is across the other side of the river. It's the oldest building in London. It dates back to 1078. It's what we today call a concentric castle. It has a central keep, inner and outer walls. There are 21 towers at the Tower of London, but it's been many things in its lifetime. It's been the Royal Mint, the Royal Zoo, the menagerie was here. We have arms, treasure. Traitors were executed here, including 3 queens of England. Buried within the confines of the small church of St. Peter ad Vincula are 3 saints in the Catholic Church. So it's a fairly interesting area that you might want to come back to be honest. So what we're going to do, once Ian can sort of manoeuvre himself around, is we're going to stop and give you 15 minutes to walk down to the embankment. I'll show you where it is, and then you can get some photographs, and
oh my goodness,
then we'll go back and continue.
That was kind of close.
If you're at the front here, you've got a really interesting view of a wall. That's why we're here. Those of you at the top at the front might notice.